At the age of 92, Shirley Jones finally breaks decades of silence, affairs, heartbreak, murmurs behind closed doors, and one truth so shocking it changes the way people think about her legacy. Stay. That secret twist in her story will take your breath away. It was like something out of a movie script at first. Shirley Jones, the golden girl of stage and cinema, had just won an Oscar for her part in Elmer Gantry. She looked like grace, purity, and pure glory. Jack Cassidy, on the other hand, was the best thing about Broadway. He was good-looking, funny, and had a voice that could fill a room in a matter of seconds. The press couldn't get enough of these two worlds coming together in the early 1960s. They were young, beautiful, and seemed like the perfect picture of elegance. People on the outside thought their marriage was nothing short of wonderful. A main character who was married to a main character. What other way could the narrative end except with a happy ending? But looks can be deceiving. Because behind the beautiful grins and stunning red carpet appearances was a marriage that was based on something much deeper. Shirley once said that Jack's overwhelming charisma and talent made her fall in love with him. The kind of enthusiasm that made people forget about themselves and drew them in. He could make anyone around him believe that he was the most important person in the world. For Shirley, who grew up in a tiny village in Pennsylvania before Rodgers and Hammerstein found her, Jack was a symbol of risk, excitement, and the thrill of life in Hollywood's fast lane. Everything in those early years felt like it was making me high. They gave fancy parties that Judy Garland, Frank Sinatra, and other famous people from Hollywood came to. Jack loved being the center of attention. He was always making jokes and stealing the show. Shirley acted like a loving wife, admiring how confident her husband was and how he could make anyone feel like his best friend. They were a perfect combination and an unstoppable force when they were together. At least on the outside. But their private lives were very different from what the cameras showed. Jack's craving for attention didn't stop when he got off stage. Shirley saw strange things happening even in the first few years of their marriage, such flirtations that went too far, stares that lasted too long, and rumors that were muttered just quietly enough for her to pretend not to hear them. She tried to dismiss it, telling herself that all Hollywood men had wandering eyes. She had grown up with conservative morals, after all. She didn't know the word divorce, and her impulse was to stick it out. But below the shiny surface, cracks started to grow. Jack's enthusiasm, assertiveness, and confidence were what made him so attractive, but they were also what led to his downfall. He wasn't just trying to be successful. He was looking for validation everywhere he could get it. And the dream of a storybook romance must have felt like a neatly painted backdrop that could fall apart at any time. The story had begun, but the clouds were already gathering in the sky. Shirley would soon find out that Jack's restless temperament wasn't just a personality quirk. It was a secret that would ruin their marriage in ways she never could have guessed. She realized she wasn't the only one Jack cared about after she learned what she did next. And not just with women. Jack Cassidy possessed an aura that was impossible to ignore from the start. He was more than just good-looking. He was full of energy. People said he made every room come to life. The man who could make a boring party into an incredible night with just a story, a laugh, or a song. Women were crazy about him. He was liked by men. He had that unusual mix of charm and self-assurance that made him seem impenetrable. And Shirley, who grew up in a tiny town and was naturally warm, fell completely in love with him. But Shirley would find out that Jack's magnetic draw came with a price that might be deadly. He had to get attention. It was a drug. And just like any drug, the more he had, the more he wanted. His flirting quickly escalated into full-blown affairs. And although while cheating wasn't new to Hollywood, Jack's actions went beyond the normal rumors. He didn't simply cheat on his wife once in a while, he lived a double life that Shirley could scarcely keep up with. At first, he had affairs with women, including actors, party visitors, and even admirers who got too close. Later on, Shirley said that she ignored a lot of these betrayals because she thought they were just part of the Hollywood lifestyle. She couldn't leave him since she loved him too much. Jack always knew how to get her back with apologies, charm, and promises he rarely kept. But soon, people started to talk about how Jack's mistakes weren't just with women. People who knew the couple said they heard startling stories. Jack's interactions with men in the theater industry, a covert relationship that was out in the open. These rumors were huge at a period when Hollywood would have buried any suggestion of the same affairs. Later, Shirley herself confirmed what many people had said. Jack Cassidy was openly gay, at least in the privacy of his marriage. People couldn't believe it, but Shirley had to face the truth about who her husband really was behind closed doors. The news made her feel conflicted. She loved him, valued his talent, and wanted to keep their family together, nevertheless. On the other hand, she was living with a man whose wants drew him in ways that she couldn't compete with. Shirley reportedly said that Jack told her straight out that he wanted to experience everything in life, including every passion, every connection, and every feeling. He was a man who wouldn't let love bind him down. This truth must have been very hard to accept. She had married a man who would never be hers alone, no matter how much he loved her. And the weight of that knowing ate away at her all the time. He got the same question at every party, trip, and new performance he was in. Who would Jack see next? But what really broke Shirley wasn't simply the affairs. Jack lived his double life so openly that it was as if he was daring her to call him out. And when she eventually did, his surprising response showed how weak their marriage really was. It looked like Shirley Jones had everything. She had a successful job in Hollywood, 3 handsome sons, and a husband that everyone else wanted. She was the sweetheart of America, a woman who was compassionate and elegant. But behind closed doors, she was carrying a heavy load that got heavier every year. People were no longer merely talking about Jack's betrayals. They were a part of her daily life, and the emotional toll was huge. Later, Shirley said that she spent a lot of her marriage to Jack pretending that everything was good. She smiled when the cameras went off. She said nice things about her husband when the press asked. She did a great job in her part. But internally, she was falling apart. She knew he was cheating on her with other women. She heard the rumors about his relationships with guys, and she knew she couldn't stop him. The cheating itself wasn't the worst part. It was the fact that Jack wasn't even attempting to disguise it anymore. Friends remembered how Jack would overtly flirt with Shirley and then disappear from parties for hours, only to come back like nothing had occurred. Most ladies would have become quite angry, but Shirley held her tongue. She had always believed in fidelity, marital vows, and getting through tough times. She also had kids to think about. She would have had to break up her family if she left Jack, so she decided to suffer in silence for years. But there was a cost to silence. Shirley started to lose who she was. She once said that Jack's actions made her feel bad, as if she could never be enough for him, no matter how hard she tried. But she never stopped loving him. That made the ache even worse. Her affection was always at odds with the fact that he had betrayed her. She was stuck in a vicious cycle. Forgive, hurt, and then forgive again. Sometimes, Shirley tried to talk to him. She would ask him why he couldn't be faithful and why their love wasn't enough. And Jack, who was known for being honest, didn't hold back. He told her that being faithful wasn't something he could do. He wasn't made to be with just one person. It hurt Shirley like a knife in the heart, but she accepted it because she didn't know how not to. He was the love of her life, even though he was slowly tearing her apart. Shirley, on the other hand, was quite good at hiding it. She worked hard at her job, raised her boys, and kept up the public picture of a happy Hollywood spouse. But the people who knew her best could see the fissures. Times when she cried. Times when she said she didn't know how much longer she could take it. But that's not the end of the narrative. Hollywood itself started to pay attention since Shirley wanted to keep her pain to herself. The rumors were no longer just whispers, they were front-page news. And what others started saying about Jack Cassidy's secret life would make the controversy worse than Shirley ever thought it could be. Gossip is big business in Hollywood. By the end of the 1960s, Shirley and Jack were more than simply a fashionable couple. They were always the subject of rumors. People talked about the parties and magazine spreads behind the scenes. Everyone in Hollywood knew that Jack Cassidy was a bit of a flirt. But the details of his affairs become bolder, wilder, and harder for Shirley to write off as just hearsay. The tabloids started to hear rumors of problems. There were rumors of a famous man with a golden voice who was observed leaving nightclubs with men who were much younger than him. People who work in the industry said that Jack would hit on people during rehearsals, sometimes women and sometimes males. The fact that no one knew about it simply made things worse. When controversies like this could end a career in a matter of hours, the talk was huge. Later, Shirley said that she knew about these rumors. Friends and acquaintances would quietly ask her if the reports were true, and she would have to smile and say no with carefully selected words. But she was heartbroken within. She knew they were true. Jack wasn't hesitant about showing off his exploits. Even in front of her, he acted like he didn't care. He thought he was untouchable and that his charm would protect him from any problems. Things became worse as people at the gathering started telling more graphic stories. Jack would brag about his sexual escapades after a few drinks, and sometimes Shirley could hear him. Some individuals said he even liked how shocking it was, as if he wanted people to know he wasn't bound by rules. Every whispered narrative was like a new wound for Shirley. She wasn't just a wife who was cheating on her husband. She was a famous person attempting to keep her dignity while Hollywood watched and condemned. It was awful how ironic it was. Shirley played the role of America's sweetheart, the wholesome mother figure that people loved. But at home, she was dealing with chaos that she couldn't manage, and Hollywood loved it. Every rumor appeared crazier than the one before it. And before long, it wasn't simply Jack's business. It was about what kind of woman Shirley must be to deal with it. The rumors went from Jack's actions to Shirley's lack of response, making her seem either heartbreakingly loyal or shockingly naive. Shirley still made it through. She didn't say anything, hiding her pain behind a polished front. But at this time, the stress was too much to handle. The rumors just wouldn't go away. They were becoming worse. And the truth was that everyone else could see that Shirley's marriage was falling apart, but she was still clinging on to it. Even though the rumors hurt a lot, the real shock came decades later when Shirley finally spoke up for herself. And what she said at 92 didn't simply confirm the rumors, it went far further and revealed truths that shocked even those who thought they knew the story. Shirley Jones had to deal with her marriage to Jack Cassidy for decades. She let the public see the polished facade, the beaming wife, the proud mother, and the talented actress without saying a word. But time has a way of breaking the bonds that keep things secret. And at 92, with not much left to lose, Shirley finally spoke up, and what she said shocked everyone. Shirley told the shocking truth about her life with Jack in interviews and in her memoir. She said out loud that he was never faithful, not even once. But it wasn't simply the many affairs with women that startled many. It was proof of what Hollywood had only talked about in secret. Her husband, Jack Cassidy, also had affairs with men. Something Shirley said she accepted, but never really understood. Shirley had kept that secret for him, even though it hurt her heart, because in those days, such things could terminate a person's career. She said that Jack was a man who was driven by passion and wanted to try everything life has to offer, no matter what happened. He told her straight out that he would never be happy with just one person, and she probably put up with it because she wanted to keep her family intact. She said she felt hurt and powerless because she loved him but couldn't stop being betrayed all the time. The infidelity wasn't the only thing that made her revelations so shocking. It was the brutal truth about how much it hurt her. Shirley said she was embarrassed because she was split between her public image as a good star and the emotional pain of knowing about her husband's secret existence. She still called Jack the love of her life, though. She talked about him with both grief and love, admitting his imperfections but never denying the fire that brought them together. One of the most unexpected things Shirley said was that she knew about Jack's actions. He showed it off. He wanted her to know, and he nearly dared her to go, pushing her limits over and over. And still, she stayed. People wondered for years why she didn't go sooner and why she put up with so much pain. Shirley finally supplied the solution at age 92. Because she cared about him. She believed in marriage and couldn't picture her life without him. As she told the truth, her voice had both strength and sadness. She didn't confess out of anger. It was freedom. She could now tell the truth after years of not saying anything. Letting the world see the woman behind the smile. But her revelation sent shockwaves over the world. People were shocked. People who didn't like Jack looked at his legacy again. And even people who had been in Hollywood for a long time talked about what else might have been hidden. Shirley's disclosures weren't only a private matter. They showed a whole new side to one of Hollywood's most gorgeous couples. But the effects of her telling the truth didn't stop there. When the hush was broken, the issue became, what will Hollywood do now that Jack Cassidy's carefully crafted image has been shattered? Hollywood didn't know how to react when Shirley's allegations eventually came to light. People recalled Jack Cassidy as a charming Broadway star for years. A fixture on TV and the larger-than-life father of adolescent idol David Cassidy. People saw him as a charismatic leading guy who could light up any stage. But Shirley's remarks broke that carefully kept recollection. The business had to suddenly think about who Jack truly was behind the scenes. Fans were shocked. Some longtime fans felt let down because they couldn't understand how the polished performance could be the same person as the reckless, self-destructive man Shirley described. Some people weren't surprised at all. People had always heard rumors about Jack's crazy behavior. But now the one person who knew him best had verified them. And the thing that bothered folks the most wasn't just the constant cheating. It was how bold it was. Jack didn't just cheat. He lived without limits, showing off his double life even when it could have ended his career in a heartbeat. The fallout, without a doubt, was bittersweet. On the one hand, she had finally gotten rid of secrets that had been weighing her down for years. On the other hand, she was witnessing her husband's reputation fall apart, piece by piece. The news was all about Jack's relationships with both men and women. Hollywood retrospectives started looking back upon his career, but they typically did so through the lens of Shirley's confessions instead of his talent. His terrible death in a fire at the age of 49 took on a darker, almost symbolic connotation. Another careless conclusion to a careless existence. But Shirley never made him out to be a bad guy. Every time she was asked, she made it apparent that Jack was the love of her life. She loved him even though he crushed her heart over and over. People were interested in that discrepancy. How could she love a man so much while going through such terrible things? It was a question that split Hollywood. Some people appreciated her loyalty and said her strength was wonderful. Some others said she was too quiet and that she gave up too much of herself to save a marriage that was doomed from the start. The Cassidy kids were also affected. David Cassidy had often talked about how his father was unpredictable and self-centered, but Shirley's honesty late in life gave his remarks more meaning. Fans thought about David's problems with drugs and fame again, and many wondered how much of it was because of the chaos Jack had seen in the family. The Cassidy name, which used to mean benign charm thanks to the Partridge family, was suddenly linked to controversy and grief. Shirley's choice to speak up didn't hurt her legacy, though. It made it better. She was more than just a famous actress at 92. She became a truth-teller, a woman who wasn't afraid to demonstrate the price of loving someone like Jack Cassidy by taking off the sheen of Hollywood. People could relate to her better, see her as more human, and respect her more when she told the truth. For decades, she had carried the burden of silence, but now she was free. But even as Hollywood thought about Jack's legacy and Shirley's strength, one question kept coming back. Did she tell us everything, or was there still a harsher truth that Shirley kept hidden because it was too painful or too explosive to ever completely reveal? It still seemed like Shirley Jones hadn't told us everything after she told us what she did. At 92, she confirmed the affairs with men and women, the cheating, and Jack Cassidy's reckless need for attention. But the breaks in her speech made it clear that she had recollections that were too painful to tell. Friends think she only told the public what they could handle. There were rumors in Hollywood about darker conduct, cruelty, breakdowns, and reckless encounters, but they probably stopped short out of love or to protect his legacy as the father of her children. What she did say was scary enough. Jack loved turmoil and was always pushing the limits, which made her feel ashamed but still devoted. Shirley said she would always love him, even when he hurt her. That contradiction made her story stick in my mind. And the question still stands, if this is what she told, what secrets did Shirley Jones take to her grave that we will never know?